Just one more time, welcome everyone. Really excited that you're here. This is the Indivisible press conference about Senator Feinstein and the filibuster. We're going to keep this call really brief. It's going to be about 20 to 30 minutes. Please feel free to use the Q&A to submit any questions that you might have. And we'll follow up after the event. You can also email info@indivisibleMarin.org if you would like to request an interview with any of the panelists. Yeah, away we go. So thanks so much for being here. So just to set the stage for what we're going to be doing today. So yesterday, 70 Indivisible chapters and allied groups representing over 80,000 Californians asked Senator Feinstein to commit to voting to swiftly end the filibuster due to the urgency of passing the For the People Act. Our groups stress that the timetable for passage of this bill is extremely time sensitive, given that its mandated independent redistricting commissions must be formed in time to prevent gerrymandered congressional district lines for the next decade. This effort is part of a national movement, which the New York Times called yesterday the most consequential political struggle over access to the ballot since the civil rights era. Totally happy to share that link if anyone needs that as well. So to kick us off today on our panel, we have Leah Greenberg, who's the co-founder and co-executive director of the Indivisible Project. Greenberg is an American political activist and co-founder of the progressive nonprofit organization Indivisible. She is also co-author of We Are Indivisible, a blueprint for democracy after Trump, published in 2019. Take it away, Leah.
Thanks, Aram, and thanks everyone. It's great to be here with you today. Look, we're on this call today because there is an emergency looming for our democracy. Fair representation and voter access in America are under direct attack. Republican state legislatures across the country are racing forward with an unprecedented aggressive agenda of voter suppression. In just the first 3 months of this year alone, Republican legislatures have introduced more than 250 voter suppression bills. They are fueled by the big lie that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. They're animated by a concentrated right-wing attack on our government and its institutions that goes back decades. And they're continuing in a tradition of voter suppression, and specifically the suppression of Black and brown votes that goes back generations, basically to the founding of our country. And to see this in action, you can look no further than one particularly egregious example: a new law proposed by Georgia Republicans that specifically restricts weekend voting, which is very clearly and directly intended to target the longstanding tradition of souls to the polls in Black communities voting after Sunday church services. This is not subtle. They have clearly concluded that they cannot win fair and square, and so instead they are going to rig the rules, and they're moving to do that at terrifying speed, not just on taking on voter suppression, or not just in enabling voter suppression, but also in moving forward on redistricting that will continue to gerrymander unfair districts, in creating unprecedented roles for state legislatures in elections. And at the national level, Republican politicians are giving an assist to this effort. They have refused for years to consider a new Voting Rights Act, and they've declared their determination to block the passage of H.R. 1, the For the People Act, which expands voting rights, which changes campaign finance laws to reduce the influence of money in politics, which limits partisan gerrymandering, and creates new ethics rules for federal office holders. The way they're going to do that is the filibuster, and we need these laws. We need them yesterday if we are going to stop the freight train of voter suppression and anti-democratic measures that are coming at us in the states. We need them if we're going to fix our democracy so it works for all of us, and we're on this call to talk about exactly how we're going to do that. Back to you, Aaron.
Thank you, Leah. So next we're going to have Erwin Chemerinsky, Dean of Berkeley Law, and Jesse H. Chopra, Distinguished Professor of Law. Erwin Chemerinsky is an American legal scholar known for his studies of United States constitutional law and federal civil procedure. He served as the founding dean of the UC Irvine School of Law from 2008 to 2017, and is currently the dean of the University of California, Berkeley School of Law. Erwin, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. The filibuster is unconstitutional and should be eliminated. The filibuster is created by Senate rule and can be abolished or modified by majority vote of the Senate. In 2013, Senate Democrats, who were then in the majority, abolished the filibuster for nominations to executive positions in federal district court and court of appeal judgeships. In 2017, Senate Republicans, who were then the majority, changed the Senate's rules to eliminate the filibuster for Supreme Court nominations. Now the Senate should take the next step and eliminate the filibuster for proposed legislation. The filibuster is profoundly anti-democratic. The Senate's always been an anti-democratic institution, as each state is allotted 2 senators, regardless of population. But the anti-democratic nature of the Senate has grown much worse because of population shifts in the country. Today, the 50 Democratic senators represent 42 million more people than the 50 Republican senators. The filibuster allows the minority to block the will of the majority. The effect of the filibuster is that it takes 60 votes in the Senate to pass virtually any bill. This means that 41 senators, representing approximately 30 million people, can outvote 59 senators who represent 300 million Americans. There is no concept of democracy where this should be acceptable. I think there's a strong argument that the filibuster is unconstitutional. The Constitution provides that Congress shall act by majority rule, except for a few instances where supermajority is required, like to override a presidential veto, or to ratify a treaty, or to convict and impeach an individual. It does not require a supermajority for other legislative actions. Those who defend the filibuster point to its long history. But actually, the filibuster changed in 1975. The Senate revised its rules. No longer does the Senate staging a filibuster have to hold the floor like Jimmy Stewart and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. The Senate shifted to what I've always thought of as stealth filibusters. Filibusters for a short time in the morning session, allowing senators to move on to additional business in the afternoon. No longer is there any institutional cost for a filibuster. The effect of this change is to mean that for virtually all laws, 60 votes are required. The recent vote on the American Rescue Plan shows the importance of governance by majority rule in the Senate. Opinion polls show that 75% of Americans are in favor of the American Rescue Plan Act, including 60% of Republicans surveyed. But not a single Republican in Congress voted for it. A filibuster by Senate Republicans was not possible because of an exception for reconciliation bills. But if a filibuster had been allowed, this act would never have had a chance of passing the Senate. The United States is a democracy, and in a democracy, the majority should govern. The filibuster is profoundly at odds with democracy and should be eliminated, at least eliminated, for bills that are meant to protect the democratic process.
Thank you so much, Erwin. Thank you. So next we have Aaron Scherb, who is the Director of Legislative Affairs at Common Cause. In his role, Scherb helps craft and gain support for various good governance proposals, primarily related to campaign finance reform, voting rights, redistricting reform, and ethics and lobbying reform. Aaron, we're so glad to have you.
Thanks so much for inviting me, Aram, and thanks to Indivisible for organizing this event. My name is Aaron Scherb. I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs at Common Cause, a national nonpartisan organization with about 1.5 million members, including more than 100,000 members in California, that has fought for years to eliminate the anti-democratic and racist filibuster. As we know, the filibuster has for many years been abused and hijacked to stop civil rights legislation, progressive reforms, and until November 2013, many executive branch and judicial nominees. Back then, Senator McConnell and Senate Republicans were delaying, blocking, and obstructing then President Obama from filling the executive branch and our courts with qualified nominees. Common Cause helped lead a diverse coalition of groups in 2012 and 2013 that urged the Senate to eliminate the filibuster for executive branch and non-Supreme Court judicial nominees. Now fast forward several years, and now that Mitch McConnell and Senate Republicans are back in the minority, they're at it again with their obstruction tactics and blocking reforms that a solid majority of Americans already support. And just this morning, Senator McConnell was on the Senate floor again, complaining about if Democrats try to eliminate the filibuster, what he would do to try to slow down Senate business and further obstruct and block progress. As Professor Chemerinsky just outlined, the Constitution clearly outlines when a supermajority is needed to override a veto, to ratify treaties, and to convict for impeachment. However, this accidental Senate rule has already been changed a number of times, and it must be changed again. The filibuster isn't just some obscure Senate rule. It's a major impediment to achieving progress and improving the lives of millions of Americans. We must eliminate the filibuster to help a single mother working 2 jobs, a dreamer living in fear, and to help our nation's seniors who cannot afford exorbitant prescription drug prices. It's time to end Mitch McConnell's legislative graveyard and let the Senate get to work doing the people's business. We can protect our environment and have clean air and water for our communities, or we can have the filibuster. We can protect our families from gun violence, or we can have the filibuster. We can protect and strengthen our right to vote, or we can have the filibuster. It's a fairly straightforward decision. We must abolish the filibuster so we can protect our children, our communities, and our democracy. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Aaron. Very, very much appreciate that. So just to close us out here, I want to talk a little bit more. My name is Aaron Fisher. I'm a grassroots Indivisible organizer who works across California and also across the country. And we believe that Senator Feinstein's job is to represent Californians, and the filibuster depletes our power in the Senate, which is already heavily, heavily stacked against us. Most people haven't considered that a Wyomingite has 66 times the representation of a Californian. So with that kind of imbalance that's already built into the structure of the body, why should a Wyomingite have even more power via the filibuster? For Feinstein to adequately represent Californians, it doesn't make sense that this arcane rule with racist origins should further deplete our power to affect the will of the 40 million residents, or her 40 million constituents. In her nearly 3 decades of service to the United States, Senator Feinstein has consistently fought for voting rights, the environment, gun safety, LGBTQ rights, and many other issues that are of great importance to our country. And progress on all those critical issues will be sacrificed in this Congress as the filibuster is left intact. While we appreciate her commitment to bipartisanship, that concept unfortunately no longer shapes today's polarized Senate proceedings. The For the People Act provides a once-in-a-generation opportunity to protect our democracy. And we call on Senator Feinstein to use her hard-earned position of seniority and leadership to take the side of democracy by voting to end the filibuster and ensure passage of this crucial legislation. Many activists across the country have been calling the Republican efforts to deny voting access to Black and Brown and Indigenous people across this country as a whites-only voting policy. And we just simply cannot allow that to happen. So we hope that Senator Feinstein will use her hard-earned position of seniority and her representation of 40 million Californians to publicly take the side of democracy and eliminate this filibuster from Senate rules. With that, I just want to encourage everyone to request interviews with any of the panelists if you like. Thank you to the 70 Indivisible groups that are part of this effort and the 80,000 Californians that we collectively represent. We're very excited to be working in such a large coalition. And to the journalists and others who have joined today, thank you for your attention. And we look forward to following up with you soon. Thank you. We'll leave this open just for another couple of minutes in case anyone wants to submit to the Q&A that you'd like to request an interview. Oh, and the email, if you'd like to follow up, is info@indivisibleMarin.org. That's info@indivisibleMarin.org. And then also, finally, I'd like to thank our panelists, Leah Greenberg, Aaron Scherb, and Erwin Chemerinsky. Thank you so much for being part of this panel today. And a special thank you to Susan Morgan and Indivisible Marin, who have put in incredible work into this effort overall to arrange this press conference and so much more.